What is going on, you guys? My name is CodyT503 and this is the Justine Podcast. We are coming to you guys live on June 23rd, 2025 for episode 109, where today we have a very special guest. And now it is an absolute pleasure to introduce to you guys the dynamic Rook Kelly.
Hi everyone. I have to say
Oh,
that was quite the dynamic introduction. I appreciate you.
oh, dude, it is so awesome to actually have you here. Thank you so very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure for me to be on the show. I've been hearing really good things.
I really appreciate that. That is freaking awesome. Well, let's just start for all the people who maybe don't know you. Maybe you can introduce your name, where you're from, and how long you've been in professional wrestling.
Well, let's see. My real name is Rook Kelly. My first name is Rook, and my last name is Kelly. Born in California, and then raised in Washington State. So it's kind of like a Targaryen raised by Starks. That's kind of how I look at it. I've been in professional wrestling now 11 years. It'll be 12 years in July.
That is insane. That's a really, really long career. So, like, if we could, okay, before we actually really get into that, let's just start off at like the way beginning. Like, when did you first get into professional wrestling? And then we'll get into that later.
This part's a little cliche because it's like, it was a lot of guys. I was just channel surfing one day and saw two grown dudes throwing each other in a ring. And I just thought that was the coolest thing ever. Oh gosh. So I'm 37 right now. So for me, it was probably around I was like 8, I want to say 8 or 9, anywhere from age 8 to 10. I was, in fact, that's where I got bit by the bug. And it was, I watched WCW, and then it was the Monday Night Wars. I got to watch that. And then I used to tape trade a lot, or I used to buy VHS tapes of ECW, because when they did the invasion angle, I was stupid curious about ECW and wanted to know more.
Hmm. Very interesting. Yeah, I had gone like throughout a little bit of research, and you were trained by WWA 4 down there in Georgia. Is that correct?
That is very true. I got there. It was November of 2012, and I was there until December of 2013.
Interesting. Yeah. So like, how was it for you
Oh,
during that time where you were actually? Oop, go ahead. Oh,
I'm listening. No,
can
go
you still
ahead.
hear me? Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, I can still hear you. We're good.
I thought for a second our connection had gotten lost. It's all good. So like what was it for you when you were actually stepping into that environment? Were you like prepared before you actually went in, or like how nervous were you?
Very nervous. Financially, I was definitely not prepared. I I knew I wanted to make the leap from Washington State because I looked up schools, and there was other school. I needed to be away from Washington, so the only way to start anew is like go to a completely different new place. So it was financially, I was not ready, but I was nervous, but I was also just really excited because I knew I wanted, this was what I was meant to do. I was meant to make that leap, and I'm
Yeah.
glad I did. It was a culture shock for sure, for someone who grew up as most of his life in Washington State. Now I've lived in San Diego a few times, so I know what it's like to be around a lot more culture. But when you live in Spokane, uh, we're kind of limited. So going from a place that's like barely 300,000 people to a place that has like millions was a that was a big difference. Going from where everywhere is like a subway and a bus station to, or no, going to a place that has like a bunch of like underground subways and bus stations and Amtraks just to get across the state and the city. So it was unique, but man, I wouldn't have ever changed that. Like everything that I went through, I wouldn't have changed.
That is so interesting. So like what is like one aspect of professional wrestling that you feel most drawn to?
Storytelling. It's the it's not so much the moves. Like the moves are great, but it's the storytelling and the drama and the fact that you get to feel so many different emotions in a really, really whatever classic match is just cooking on all cylinders. You get to feel everything going into that. That's what draws me the most is those little moments that draw you in where that just like it's like everything time stops, but everything focus on that what's in this squared circle.
Yeah. Yeah, I know I kind of brought up with a couple people prior, but like, do you feel like professional wrestling should be labeled more as a sport than it is, or maybe have more respect than it typically does?
There's the traditionalism part of me wants to keep labeling as a sport because it is professional wrestling. The entertainer side of me understands that like okay like WWE is going to call themselves sports entertainment, and that's fine because that's what they've been pretty much known as for a long time.
Yeah.
That being said, it's like it's kind of hard to describe professional wrestling as either it's like it is a sport and it is also a performance. So it's kind of I walk a fine line on that. On any day I can be like, yeah, it's technically a sport because we do have referees and they do legit count, the number, they do have authority in that ring. Then you also and then on the flip side of that, you see people who are doing like character theme matches and stuff like that. There's a guy who does I saw somewhere in the indies a guy did a pogo stick jump from like the outside of the ring to the inside, so that's entertainment value. So you have that, and then you have Mr. Iguana or the iguana that just showed up on WWE. So that's
Yeah.
complete entertainment and character. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you got the
Very.
sport aspect because the athleticism as well, but you also have so much performance. I think that's what it really boils to.
Yeah. Mhm. Well, I know that when you look at professional wrestling and especially professional wrestler careers, there are going to be ebbs and flows going
Hmm.
throughout your entire career. So, like,
Hmm.
what is the one thing that you mostly enjoy about the overall journey of becoming a professional wrestler and beyond?
Getting to have different experiences with other types of wrestlers, different types of crowds, and still learning more and more about like, okay, this crowd's a wrestling crowd, but there's a lot of kids in the audience. Okay, this crowd's not a wrestling crowd, but they're all drinking. It's getting to be able to experience all those places and all those new types of shows, new types of crowds, new types of wrestlers. That's what still intrigues me is that there's always something to learn and always something to experience with new talent and talent you know upcoming talent that's been in the business for years and years, veterans, legends. It's the excitement of still being able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, is there anybody that you had actually seen that was up and coming where when you looked at them, you were like, "They have it." So, like, can you kind of explain to us one of those scenarios or what it means?
Ooh, good question. So having it is just it's kind of it can be everything or it can just be a few things. So some guys who have it could be they look good and they look good in the ring. Their promos are incredible. Their matches are always incredible. They always know how to engage the audience every single match. That could be it, or it could be, man, this guy has it, and they could only just be a character. They may not
Mhm.
be the most technically sound person, but for whatever reason, the audience is engaged and feels something with them. Or maybe you have a guy who's amazing at the promos, and maybe he's like in the ring, he's okay, but his promos always pull you in no matter what. There's guys gosh, that have it factor. I was just at a show over the weekend at a place called for SOS Pro Wrestling, and they had there's a talent. It was literally their first match and they're on fire. And I was like, they wrestled like they had been doing it for years, and that was their first match. So, they have great athleticism. They look good. They're engaging, and I've looked in this person, and it's one of those like, okay, there's going to be something. Like I told the promoter like right afterwards, like I want to work with this person. I want to help. I feel like I want to help elevate this person. So there's one of those. And then as far as guys who just have it, there's a guy over here who's wrestled in the Pacific Northwest quite a few times. His name's Akita. I believe he has it. Like he's got the look, he's got believability, he's got incredible, like he can work with anyone. He can work with lucha, he can work with guys who are brawlers, technical, and he's good on the mic. He's just smooth. I think he's got it. Like that's definitely someone I would consider in that book.
That is so awesome. So you were actually in or I guess like asking, were you in Las Vegas during WrestleMania weekend during that whole thing? So how was it for you going to Vegas? How much how much fun was that? There you go.
So much fun. Every time I go to Vegas, I always have fun anyway. So I was really happy the last time I was in Vegas, I had gotten to wrestle. And then this time when I was in Vegas, I actually didn't wrestle in Vegas. I wrestled in Utah for the first time. But I was there from Wednesday until Sunday, and every single day I was there, I was surrounded by pro wrestling. From the moment I got there, I picked up a buddy of mine over here in Washington, and goes by Chase James. I met him up there, and then we went to go see. It was Braun Breaker was at a liquor store, so that was cool. Like, and we waited like a full 2 hours to walk all the way around the line just to take a picture with him. I did kind of a dumb moment, like I got a little. It's not that I got too fanboy marked out. It was one of those. I went up to him, and I had this idea in my mind. I was like, oh, I was going to ask him a really good question. The the dumb moment that I had, I get there. I was like, hey, can I ask you a question? I was like, I just asked you a question by saying that. So I didn't realize I was doing. I fist bump. We got a picture, but then the dude's like, we gotta go. Hey, we don't got time. We gotta wrap it up. I'm like, okay, all right, that's cool. I wasn't gonna. I basically got what I want. I got to see him and I got a picture with him. So I was like, all right, that's cool.
Yeah.
So I got to be around wrestling from there. And then I was at, that night, I was at Sonico's, it was like he had a wrestling ring and he had some wrestlers. He had a really badass match in his backyard, or it was like, there was a lot of people that were there. And, yeah, it was pretty fun. And then let's see. Oh, bear with me just a moment. I just got to plug in my computer here, but let's see. It was wrestling every single day. I got to see NXT, the pay-per-view. I got to see the TNA pay-per-view that had Mance Warner and Sami Callihan, and then I didn't get to go to WrestleMania because I had to go wrestle around that weekend in Utah. But man, everywhere I went, it was nothing but about pro wrestling, and it was awesome.
Yeah, I bet that definitely has to get you like really excited for next year. So are you going to want to go back to Las Vegas during WrestleMania weekend?
Absolutely. Yeah, I am going to be yeah, absolutely. I'm saving up and I'm going out there, but I'm going to make sure this time I'm going to be wrestling in Vegas. So I am not, and I mean, I am not missing out on wrestling.
That should be so awesome. That is so cool. So I've noticed whenever I look onto your social medias that you will call professional wrestling matches your movies. So like when did you start that aspect of calling matches that?
Oh, okay. Bear with me just a moment. I'm right now. I'm plugging in my laptop. Okay. All right. So how that all started, I was in Seattle at the time. It was called 3-2-1 Battle. And this was when I was just kind of starting my new character, which was the that is today. So, I was like, my character would. This was in the beginning of 2018. So my character's in. For anyone who has never seen me, who doesn't know what I am, it's my character's an 80s, 90s action movie star. I'm not an A-lister. I'm not even a B-lister. I'm not a C-lister. I'm a D-lister. And the D is for dynamic.
Now I can't hear you. I think something went out. Give me 1 second. No, you fucker. Yeah, I can't hear you. Yeah, no. Mm-mm. Dang it. No. I can't hear you. No. No. Come on. I'll click you off. On. How's that? No. Resend it. No. Give us just 1 second, you guys. How's that? Can you hear me? No. Gosh. I don't want to remove him. There we go.
Okay, is there it? All right.
There we go. Okay, I can hear you now.
Man, I am so sorry, everybody.
Oh, dude, no problems at all. I mean, it's gonna happen. It's
Okay.
definitely gonna happen.
My apologies, everyone. Technical difficulties on my end, but it looks like we got it fixed.
Awesome.
What was the last question that you had asked me so I can
I asked you about you calling professional wrestling matches movies.
Yeah, okay. So 2018, when I was just like the end of 2017, beginning of 2018, I was just starting this character, and it just made sense. It was one of those things like, well, if he stars in his own movies and he writes his and directs his all his own movies, why wouldn't his matches just be called movies? Or, sometimes I'll either call them movies or I'll call them scenes, because the whole show is technically the movie and my scene just happens to be the most important.
Oh, yeah, I had actually seen a promo where you were calling the people who were working with you cast members.
Yep. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it used to, I would call everyone, if, if I would call people either extras or I would call them cast members in my movie. Depending on the scenario, you're either going to be unpaid extras in my movie or you're supporting cast members.
Oh, that is so awesome. So, I know one thing that I had sent you about our discussion list is like when and where were you when you actually heard of Sabu passing away?
Oh gosh. What date was it exactly? Because I know around that weekend it was either I was wrestling for Relentless or I was about to wrestle for somewhere else. I'm trying to remember the exact date.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah,
was,
I
gosh, that was hard. That was heartbreaking. I didn't want to believe it was real, of all things. Like we hear, it seems like every other day or every month, you're going to hear like 4 or 5 RIPs from either celebrities or something.
Mhm.
Uh, Yeah, it was Relentless Weekend, and hearing that broke my heart. Because he was Sabu was one of the guys one of the first ECW tapes I bought, he was on it, and it was barely legal, 1997, and then I bought like a best of ECW volume 1 or something like that. Also had Sabu. Gosh, I was it was one of those like man, what 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 a life, like what is life right now? So it just makes you more appreciative and respectful of the legends who came before, because our time on earth is not very long, and especially the legends before us, you know.
Yeah.
So I think it was Relentless Weekend was when I heard the news, but that was tough,
Yeah.
and it still kind of is. It's still like having to move on the next day or move on the next week is like it's weird, you know.
So here's a question. So like I think everybody knows that like professional wrestling is really, really hard on the human body. And we see
Yes.
that with how young these professional wrestlers end up passing away and everything. So how would you kind of explain to people that hardness or how much it takes on a human body?
It's very hard on us on every day. It's either usually my hip or my knee. I have to pop it, or I have some sort of discomfort, not like agonizing pain, but for the most part, it doesn't always feel like sunshine and rainbows. That's for sure. It's
Yeah.
taxing. It's like you got to figure every match, every slam, everything that you're taking in the ring is like being in a little bit of a car wreck, you know? And it's like being in a car wreck on your body and then having to get up and do it again the next day. Or, it's it's one of those careers that you have to be okay knowing that your body is just gonna hurt, and it just
Mhm.
sucks after weekends. And what we do is for the entertainment of the crowd, is for their entertainment.
Yeah.
We put our bodies on the line. We put our bodies in you know, the person we're facing in the ring. We're putting our lives in their hands, and their lives are in our hands. So yeah, it's a risk being in there, but it's also one of the most enjoyable things that that we like to do. It is taxing. There are people who have been paralyzed because of this business. There have been people who've unfortunately died in this business. Granted, you can have people die in any sport, and you can have people get paralyzed or hurt in any sport as well. It's just the nature of the business. There's a lot more risk. There's a lot of times there's people say, well, does the reward outweigh the risk? I mean, to some extent it does, and a lot of times there's more risks than rewards. So
Yeah.
that's just something to think about with pro wrestling. But I don't want that to be a deterrent to people getting into the business or anything. You just have to understand what you're signing up for. It
Yeah.
it hurts, but it's also one of the most adrenaline rushing, one of the most I can't describe the fun. It's just such a level of fun that I can't describe on anything else.
That is so awesome. Well, I know one. like good hot topic that is going on right now is John Cena's heel turn. So how do you
Mhm.
feel about him turning heel? Do you like what is your opinion on it?
Gosh, for me, it's like if you're gonna go big, if you're gonna go out big, you know. And
Mhm.
after all these years, being 25 years with the, being for over 20 years being such a like a good guy, being a baby face, it's weird. You'd think that like he could just go out and ride off into the sunset as one of the best, to never have to change his gimmick and character for like 20 years. The last person who did that was really like Hulk Hogan. You know, I mean, in Austin from 96 till, whenever he wants to show up, he's stone cold. He's stone cold. But for John Cena to not change, I like it. I'm happy that he's doing it. And I honestly, because I like being a heel at times too. Uh, I enjoy it, and it's like when people get so butthurt and upset about the things he says and does, it's like this is exactly what we wanted, and now you're all complaining, you're all mad. It's like you all wanted this too. Come on, you all pushed it for years, and now that you have it, you're mad. It's like, well, that's I love it. The more they get upset, the more it makes me appreciate it. Like, yeah, he's doing his job. He's the heel. You wanted it, and now you got it. Now it's too bad. That's how I look at it. I love his heel work. This is I feel like this is something that it's been wanting to be seen for years. I feel like it was under the surface and wanted to come out. It just never truly did.
Mhm.
But what's funny about that? Though, like one of the funnier things is that yeah, he's had to be a baby face, but when you define like a heel or someone who has to be the heel of the match, Cena's done that more often than people can realize. Like
Mhm.
when he
Yeah.
faced when he wrestled Daniel Bryan, who were the fans booing and who were the fans cheering in that match? Like it's
Yeah.
uh,
Or
and
Rey Mysterio where he had to take away the WWE championship after 2 hours of Rey Mysterio winning it.
tell me
That was
Cena
pretty
wasn't a heel then. Come on. Like, what do you mean that's not a heel? He took it off Rey Mysterio. You're a heel.
Yeah. Oh, that is so awesome.
You could preach hustle, loyalty, and respect all you want. You took it off Ray. You're totally a heel. I don't care. He's been.
Yeah.
I feel like people just don't like. People just don't see him as that, but it's so funny because we've since I would say 2005, 2006, he's had matches where he was the heel of the match many
Yeah.
times while be considered a
Mhm.
babyface. Like, okay, who was the heel in him versus Rob Van Dam in ECW One Night Stand? I rest
Yeah.
my case. Like, who,
That is
who,
so awesome.
who, yeah, which person, like when they threw their shirt in the audience, who was it that they were aiming towards when they threw it
Yeah.
back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, let's talk about Reactive Pro Wrestling Ace of Spades. I know that night you were actually going up against Marcus Erics. Is there
Mhm.
anything that you really enjoy about his character and what he has to bring to the ring when it comes to matching up with him?
Yes. He's got a lot of good he's got a good intensity, and he has charisma. I feel like there's a lot more under the I feel like there's more in that book that people haven't read yet that they're just starting to read. So he's got a
Yeah.
good look. He's fast. He's pretty damn strong. He's let's see. He's a good heel. Like he's good at what he does, you know. I just feel like with him there's more that people are not ready for, but it's coming. Like I feel like something is on the verge and it's going to blow people's minds.
Yeah. That is so
But
cool.
other than that,
So
he is. He is. I like him. I think he's cool, even if he's a dick.
Oh
Even if
man,
he
that is
beat me.
so
Even if he beat me,
yeah.
which that's a different story. But yeah, that was at so that was
Um,
at Reactivate, and then yeah, that was just almost a month ago. Yeah.
hmm. So, like, of all the wrestling companies that you've actually been able to perform for, what are some of your like top three favorite promotions?
Ooh. Okay. So top three. Well, let's see. So it's unfortunately it's no longer around, but when it was called 321 Battle, when they were around, that was one of my absolute favorites because it was every other Friday, so they did it twice a month, and it was like a punk rock vibe mixed with pro wrestling and it was weird wrestling. It was weird wrestling. There was drinking. There was people everyone was singing, and it's like the whole audience was in on every single joke, gag, gimmick, everything that you can think of. The whole audience was in on it, and it was just such a awesome vibe, you know. So unfortunately, that went away. But so my top favorite ones now that I've gotten to wrestle would have to be Relentless and SOS are tied for number one because Relentless is my hometown, our home show, but it the fans of Relentless are very very passionate and they're with it too, even if they're like half wrestling fans, some bar crowd, and also kids. So you have a good like combination of the type of fans there, and then also the people they bring in. You know, it's just you have some really killer names that come in. In fact, this upcoming show, we have Jonathan Gresham and Kevin Blackwood coming in, so that I'm looking forward to. Let's see the other ones like SOS. SOS Pro Wrestling is in Tacoma, and I love them very much. It's an island theme wrestling show. It's like if pro wrestling and Lost got together and had a show. That's pretty much what it's like, and it's got a lot of the same vibe that 321 Battle has. It's not in Seattle, but in Tacoma, it carried over a lot of those same great fans, and then developed new fans. One of the cool things I loved about SOS was that it was actually a show that started during the pandemic. It was around 2020 or 2021. It was a show that we did. It was a show to entertain the boys. Like we just had to put a ring. They put a ring in some dude's backyard, and we made it seem like um, they made it seem like we had no audience, so they just clipped in like animals here and there, like island monkeys or island animals. Every time someone would do a big slam, it would just like pan to like a monkey like looking in the camera, sort of thing. So it was that for a little bit, and then they got into an indoor venue, which they called the Grapple Gallery, and then they got into the venue. They had a show in Seattle, and it was a really really cool venue. And then they moved to where they're at in Edison Square in Tacoma. But yeah, it's island theme. It's weird. It's fun. And then I would say the number three have to be. I'd have to say ASW Canada. It's pretty fun. I like wrestling there. The talent's great. The fans are amazing every single time. Like they are very very passionate and they always have a lot of fun too. Yeah, I would say Relentless, SOS tied for like number one and two, and then ASW so
That is
far.
so cool. Okay, well, I know I wanted to ask you about 5cc wrestling, but before we get into that, just to kind of go with what you were just saying about the differencing in crowds, how is it kind of gauging
hmm
that as a professional wrestler when you know that when you go to this company, the fans are going to react this way, or I could do this during my match when I'm focusing on this company? How is it kind of gauging that as you're maneuvering your way through all those different companies?
it's interesting because you also have to figure. Okay, so let's say if I have a show. that their normal venue is only one specific venue, right? Like they've been there for like either however many years, and they've built their audience, they've built their fan base, and that specific fan base is either one of a few things. It's either people who have watched wrestling, who do watch wrestling, but they only watch the main shows on TV, or they only come to watch the wrestlers that are their locals.
Hmm.
It's either their locals or because they love indie wrestling specifically, and they do what. So I have to figure out that. So it could also be anywhere else too, in the sense of it could be at a fair. So let's say if it's at a fair or a festival, and I go out in the crowd and I'm seeing mostly kids and adults, chances are they're just there just to see entertainment, just to see something exciting to happen.
Yeah.
They may not be wrestling fans, but they're there to have a good time. So I have to consider that too. So if some fans are not going to always understand this is awesome chants, because I can understand, I can see a lot of guys would be wanting to go for those kind of chants. It's like you can get those, but you're gonna get them in certain crowds. Like wrestling, if you go to a show that it's all a wrestling crowd where they watch every wrestling, like all the wrestling, then yeah, you're in eat for kind of an easier night because they're more understanding of what you do in there, if that makes sense. Like they're more understanding of, oh, it's not just two dudes beating the crap out of each other and I'm in front row. So you have actual fans, casual fans. How to gauge through other shows. It's like if I wrestle at a show on a Friday and it was at a festival, and let's say I did this match, they reacted to certain things, but not everything. But let's say I try that next thing at a regular show, the next one, and it kills on everything. So it's just a matter of, okay, that was definitely, this worked, this one thing worked for that type of crowd, that festival, those type of folks. And then this one thing definitely worked for these type of crowds. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Hmm.
I know I'm going on
No.
long tangents here,
No,
but
you're
bear with me.
good. No, you're all good. I know I wanted to bring up 5cc wrestling to you. And so was there anything that you actually found beneficial about working in a five-sided ring as compared to a four?
Uh, well, I guess the beneficial part is it just forces you to be more creative.
Hmm.
Like you have to, it's weird because in the sense of, thankfully at the 5cc ring, you would think when you hear a five-sided ring that it would be stiff AF, but surprisingly it wasn't. Like it was actually one of the easiest rings to bump in. So that was a benefit. I'll say that was the benefit of that. It's awkward though because it's five. It's no equal sides of the ring. So when you hit the ropes and go straight, you're going to a corner,
Yeah.
and then when you go from there, you go into another set of ropes. So it just forces you to be creative and how to maneuver the ropes and just how you construct your matches, pretty much.
Yeah. That is so interesting. All right. Well, let's talk about Relentless Monumental 2, because I'm pretty sure that night you were a
Mhm.
part of a six-way ladder match. Can you kind of tell us the whole
Yes, it
story
was.
leading up to that match?
So we have the competitors we had Chase James, yeah, Keita Murray, or yeah, Chase James, Keita, Anton Voorhees. You had Alex Zane, Aaron Solo, and then myself.
Mm.
So the key four that are in there, myself, Chase, Keita, and Anton, we all have kind of like a rivalry with each other. So for the last 2 years, since I've been at Relentless, I've been gunning for the Pacific Northwest Championship. And I've wrestled Keita previously when he was the champion, and he beat me. And then I wrestled against Chase James, and I believe he had it, and he beat me. And then, or it was either a contendership or he had the title. So, and then we had a ladder match last year at Monumental 1. I was in that ladder match, and I was in the last two with Keita. So Keita was about to win, and he pulled my foot in, cheating bastard. Pulled my foot in, so I'm dangling on the ladder, and then he won. So this year I'm in there. I've been gunning for the Pacific Northwest Championship for 2 years. Anton has beef with Keita, and then you got Alex Zane and Aaron Solo they're they're there because you got to add some extra spice to this ladder match. So you put one guy who's never been in a ladder match, and that's Aaron Solo, and then one guy who's one of the craziest guys and one of the most unique, athletically gifted persons, and Alex Zane. It does make the match a little bit more dynamic, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So it was a ladder match for a contract. It's a briefcase match, and it's for a contract for a match of your choosing for this year. So it could be any type of match. It could just literally be a singles match against someone that you have a rivalry against. It could be against someone who has a championship. So the ball is in my court now since I won.
That is so
Oh, by
awesome.
the
I
way, I
was
did win the
actually
ladder match.
yes. Yeah, you actually won it. And one point that I was watching during that match was a four-way power bomb off of the top of the ladder. So like what was like one move that you maybe remember with that one where it was like there's that high risk maneuver?
I mean, the power bomb that was pretty high risk. I liked that one. Now the thing about that was, if you watched it, the ladder came down, and it almost looked like it was about to come down on someone's face. But as we're coming down, Keita was able to like safely block it with his foot, so it just looked like it was slowly coming down after we all did the power bomb. Yeah, thankfully, no one got messed up on that one. That was very grateful for that, especially for the guys taking it. Like it's more on them than us, because Aaron and I, we're at the bottom of the base. We're like, okay, and down you guys go. See, the other standout moment actually was when Alex Zane did Aaron Solo throws the ladder at two guys on the outside, and Alex Zane comes out of nowhere and flips, lands on both of them and the ladder, eats the ladder, but hits them both. And the camera had the best shot of him just like out in a daze, and it was amazing. It was probably one of the best shots in the whole match. Was that?
That is so awesome. So it's
Yeah.
like, what do you mostly enjoy about Relentless Pro Wrestling that Chase James brings with Relentless?
It's showing that Spokane, not only does Spokane have something, Spokane now has something that's in a high echelon. It's becoming in the high echelon of the Pacific Northwest wrestling chain. Because when you think about the PNW for pro wrestling, the heavy hitters, you got Defy, you have Prestige, and then Prestige and Progress, kind of like they have a partnership, or is it Defy and Progress? But anyway, there's a full, those are the big heavy hitters that everyone wants to be on. And then, of course,
Yeah.
with Oregon, you have PAL Pro Wrestling, you have PAL, you have Prestige. What Chase brings is it brings another outlet that I feel like we're getting up there with the likes of PAL. We're getting up there with the likes of Prestige, and it's something big for Spokane. Like Spokane's had attempts at pro wrestling a few times, and they just didn't pan out as well. So with Chase, when I ask about pro wrestling in Spokane, they don't have to worry about that, because it's in good hands with Relentless. Like Relentless, Spokane is Relentless, and Relentless is Spokane in a way, but it's also Relentless is a big part now of the Pacific Northwest, and that's what I feel like Chase brings. I feel like he brings more option for everyone watching. And a very good product. And I don't like going around saying, well, this product's better than that product, or this show's better. It's like, no, he brings you another sweet ass option to watch and to be a part of.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I know Kurt Angle was a part of Monumental too. Did you get to
Mhm.
actually meet him that night?
Sadly, no.
Oh.
So he had his podcast with Brian Alvarez, and I was in the room. So I was like, I would say 15, about 15 feet away from him while he's doing his podcast. So for me, I was like, you know what? I'm cool with that. Like I didn't get a chance to go ask him a question. And the bummer thing is I've heard he's like the nicest guy possible. So I missed out on that. But it was funny. So he had his he had his VIP his VIP was going on, and no one else was out there. So I kind of just went to my merch table. So everyone's all gathered to the VIP, and I'm just sitting there chilling at my merch table. And then, at some point, his VIP got over. So all the people were like, all right, well, cool. Now we're going to go see the other merch table. And I was the only one there at mine. So I was like, oh, cool. Now I got people buying mine before the show starts. Thank you, Kurt.
Oh, that is so awesome. Well, I kind of want to take you back to 2017. That was actually the first night, or there was a night in 2017 that was the first time I ever saw you, and that was at the Hunger Slam 2017. And
Yep.
I had actually met you in the bathroom, and I don't know if you remember me asking you this question, but about you being a RVD lookalike, and you were sitting there washing your hands, and you were like, "Yeah, it's actually a big honor to be, told that you look like somebody as big as RVD." So, like, how is that? Like, do you still get that sometimes?
I love the details. I remember it was in a bathroom. It was So I was in the bathroom stall looking at you. No, I'm just kidding. I've ever since I grew my hair out, ever since I grew my hair out and like as a wrestler, that's all I've gotten is RVD. But that hasn't changed. That's still a high honor and a compliment that someone's like, you look like RVD, and I appreciate that. But it also makes me wonder if I didn't have the ponytail, if I would look like him way less, or you know but then I if I shave my face and then I see my facial structure, I'm like, oh no, I look like him kind of regardless. But yeah, the ponytail just happened to be the icing on the cake. But yeah, uh I have now lost count since then how many times people have come up to me and go, hey, do you know who you look like? And I'd be like, let me guess, is it Rob Van Dam? And they're like, yeah, absolutely. I'm like,
Um,
so, funny enough, I've actually met RVD 3 different times, but I had short hair all 3 times, and this was when I was like a teenager, and then in my first all 3 times were at San Diego Comic-Con. Was the times I met him. And first first time I met him, this was in '05, and then the second time was in '08, and then the last time was in '09.
yeah. That is so
I,
interesting. So,
I would love.
what can you kind of explain to us is like the future that you want of Rook Kelly? Like, where do you see yourself over the next few years, or where do you want to be at?
It's a good question. I see myself signed somewhere, just somewhere. Like it could be WWE, it could be New Japan, TNA, it could be AEW, MLW. There's a lot of places now that you can get signed, and so I think within the next few years, I plan on getting signed by a really, really big company, or I'm just going to be traveling the world and wrestling and being a professional wrestler and an artist will be paying my bills and paying my way.
Yeah.
So that's how I see it, is traveling more and more and getting my name out there even more than I have in the last 11 years, and then traveling, and either getting signed or having, either way, pro wrestling and art is what's going to be paying my bills and what's going to be taking care of me.
That is so awesome. So, before we actually get to our final question, I want you to be able to tell everybody where can they find you on social media.
Okay. Well, you can find me on Facebook. I do go by my full name, which is Rook Joseph Kelly. If you want to check me out there, I have Instagram, which it's under dynamic Rook, dynamic underscore Rook underscore Kelly, and then you can also find me on Twitter or on X, formerly known as Twitter, and it's under Dynamic1RK or Dynamic1RK. And I usually post all my artwork, my promos, my movie trailers, if you will. I post them on every form of social media. So yeah.
That is so cool. So, as a final question, I just want to ask you, what does you being a professional wrestler mean to Rook Kelly the person?
Oh wow, that's a really good question. I believe that being a professional wrestler to Rook Kelly is it's part of my legacy and it's part of my story in my life. Like I believe that I was meant to be an artist and I was meant to be a wrestler.
Yeah.
And so it's part of who I am. Like I feel like being a professional wrestler it's part of who I am as a person. This is what I've known for all my what's made sense most of my life, and it's being a part of something that's bigger than myself, and having my name means something, and having to have good levity or gravity. I guess that's what the word I was trying to use.
Yeah. That is
It means that I'm somebody in this world. And if being somebody in this world is being a wrestler, and then people will be able to people will be able to talk about me when their kids are now adults and they still can talk about me in a good way, hopefully. And then yeah, that's what that means. That's what being a wrestler to Rook Kelly means the most.
That is so freaking awesome, man. Well, I cannot thank you so much for allowing me to be able to just sit down with you and just go throughout all of these questions and know who Rook Kelly is. It's been awesome.
Well, you're freaking awesome. I want you to know that. An interesting podcast is a freaking interesting, awesome podcast.
All right, man. Well, I really, really appreciate that. And I cannot wait to see you when I can actually go to a show that you're performing at.
You got to. This Saturday, it will be Relentless. We'll be at Players and Spectators in Spokane, Washington. Got to come check us out, and I would love to hang out with you. And we gotta do something.
All right, man. Well, I hope you have a very, very good night, and I'll talk to you later.
Thank you again, and thank you all for being patient with my technical difficulties earlier. And I hope you have an amazing night.
All right. All right, you guys. So that was Interesting's podcast interview with Rook Kelly. Make sure to hit that like, subscribe button, and ring that notification bell so you guys get notified whenever I upload content. Make sure to go and follow me on social media at CodyT503. That's Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I hope you all have a